Hello there guys, and welcome to episode 2 of the How to Make Flight Sim videos series. In the previous episode, we took a look at the tools of the trade, both hardware and software, and in this episode we are going to be recording an actual movie. Before we begin, I'd like to offer my thanks to all of you on your recommendations for improving the sound quality. I'd like to also address a question by one of you guys that came through episode 1, which is how much does it cost to run a YouTube channel, Flight Sim YouTube channel? And there isn't really an answer to this question, but I can give you a directional cost, and in financial terms, there's a CapEx and OpEx involved in running a YouTube channel. The CapEx being the initial investment that you put in purchasing your PC and your flight sim gear, keyboard, etc. And the OpEx, or the operating expense, is really all the add-ons that you purchase, all the aircraft, scenery, and plugins. And so what it cost me to run the channel is about $200 to $400 per month. For add-ons, aircraft, scenery, tools, and what have you. And the CapEx, or the capital expense that I put initially, was $3,000 approximately for the new machine. And the previous machine was also in the vicinity of $3,000. So all in total, in the past 2 years, I've spent about $6,000 just on the machines. Now, it really depends on what you want to do with your channel. If you want to have a weekly schedule, you want to make sure that you have fresh content. So you're going to have to make an investment in those plugins and sceneries. One last thing before we begin recording, and as the main purpose of creating this episode is to help those of you who are just starting their YouTube channels or are interested in what happens behind the scenes, I'd like to share with you guys a little bit about my experience with Flight Sim and what works. And what I found out through looking at the analytics of my channel is that most people in our community are interested in the how-to videos, how to make X-Plane look realistic, how to start the A-to-A Connie from cold and dark, how to install scenery. The the instructional videos have the highest number of views. And in the second category comes the reviews. So when you review an aircraft or a scenery, I think this is something that people really appreciate, especially with the fact that, the price of add-ons is on an increasing trend. And so I think people really appreciate being able to see the aircraft or the scenery before they make an investment. In the third category comes the top 5, top 10, top 20 videos. Those are very popular as well in the flight sim community, and the reason why, in my opinion, is that I will have probably a top 5 list that is completely different from, say, my good friend Thomas Rasmussen. And so people will be able to consolidate. So if we both agree that, number 1 comes IXEG 737, then probably people would make that investment. So anything that really helps people make a decision as to whether they want to make an investment is, I think, something that people appreciate a lot. So let us begin now with the recording, and what we're going to do is we're going to record a couple of sequences inside the 3D cockpit, a couple perhaps in the external view, and one in the while the aircraft is up in the air. From this point forward, I am not going to edit anything, so you guys can get a full appreciation of what happens during the process of recording a cinematic. And we're not going to worry about the length of each sequence because we can always go back and edit. Now, the nice thing about creating cinematic sequences is that you don't really have to worry about sneezing, or your son barging in looking for his McQueen car, simply because we're going to remove all the voiceovers. The voice track is going to be removed, and we will replace it, of course, with some music. So it is always a good idea, though, to do it while the kids are asleep, if you have children in the house, because they tend to be really loud. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to find a nice angle to begin the sequence from. And what do you guys think? I think this is a nice angle. I think it shows the scenery, and so it kind of put the viewer in that frame of reference. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the C keyboard button. That will put me in chase view, and then I'm going to use the period keyboard button to zoom in on the aircraft position. So let's go ahead and do that. And as you can see now, we are coming in nicely and smoothly, zooming in on the aircraft position. Again, it doesn't really matter how long the sequence is, because we're going to edit the scene later. So we're just make sure that you get enough duration on each sequence so that you can play around with it later on. Okay, so this is close enough, and we're pretty close to the aircraft now. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into the flight deck. So I'm going to hit Shift and 9, and now we are in the 3D cockpit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to enable X camera. Okay, so X camera is now enabled, and let's do the following. Let's tilt the view here. All right, and now I'm going to create another camera view. So we'll say, oops, we can't delete that one. So we'll add, that's camera 2. And then we'll say add, and that's camera 3.
Added camera 4
and now camera 4.
Added camera 5 to category
and camera
cockpit.
5.
Added camera 6
and now
to
camera
category
6.
cockpit. Added camera,
Camera
7
7.
to category cockpit.
All right, and we'll say save all. Okay, so now we have 7, as you can see, we have now 7 camera views. And what we're going to do is we're going to say enable, let's see, linear transition, auto advance to the next one, enable smooth camera joins, and enable level camera. Okay, and we're going to say the transition frames for this is 300. Now we're going to move to, oops, as you can see now, we do have the sequence, but we are just going to jump to camera 2 and do the same. We're saying enable smooth transition. No, sorry, we did, I forgot what we did. Okay, so linear transition, okay. All right, so linear transition, auto advance, enable smooth camera joins, and we're gonna say 300. And then we're gonna do the same thing for camera 3, linear transition, auto advance, smooth, and 300 frames. And the same thing for camera 4, linear, auto, smooth camera joints, and 300 frames. Camera 5, linear, auto, smooth, 300 frames. 600, sorry, camera 6, and same thing here, and the same thing here again. Okay, so now we have the sequence, and of course we are recording, so here's what I'm going to do. Now you have the entire sequence being played, and this is exactly how I create my cinematics. So now, as you can see, we are moving very slowly between the different transitions. And we're just going to have to let this finish the recording. Now, when we actually edit the movie, we're not going to take this entire sequence. And what I normally do, I take the best parts of any particular sequence. And this is kind of, it's a bit slow. Perhaps maybe 200 frames would have been a better choice. But we're going to use the parts, that we like the most, and we're going to scrap the rest. Okay, we're just going to wait for this to finish. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to disable X camera. Okay, and here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go all the way here to the back. And now I'm not using X camera. I'm using the default X-plane camera. Okay. All right. So now what we're going to do, we're going to zoom in on to the instrument panel in this way. All right. And now we're going to do one more thing. Here in the interior is we're going to fire up the aircraft. All right, so let's do, I can't see the hot start button. All right, so what we'll do is we're going to fire up the aircraft, and then we're going to record, some of the instruments here. Okay, so we want to zoom in on this area, and we're going to put like a full throttle to record, the instruments here, the gauges moving. Right, so that's what I want to do. So let me turn on all these. Let's see here. Okay, APU bleed is on. I think we can go ahead and start the engines now.
Starting engine 2.
Yep. So what we're going to do is we're going to come down here and just record this. And we'll use that later on in the video. Okay, that's good enough. Okay.
Starting engine 1.
The second engine as well. All right. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to go and move to the external view, and we'll turn the beacon on and the nav lights. Okay, and let's go ahead and shift 4. Now, in the external view, there are a few things that you can do using the regular camera or the X-plane camera. So if you hit shift and 4, that will put you in external view. And if you use your keyboard arrow keys, you can create this circular motion around the aircraft. Okay, so that's one sequence. But we can also use X camera to create something a little more dramatic. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to enable X camera again. And this time around, let's see here. We'll go to camera 1, and we're not going to say, we're going to disable enable to the next camera. All right, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create add a category, and we're going to add camera 1. This is going to be an external camera. Okay, and here's what we're going to do. We are going to work the aircraft, close the aircraft. So now, as you can see, you have, you're free to create any views. We'll begin right here. All right, this is the position. Okay, and we're going to add another camera to one camera. All right, so camera 2. External camera. Alright. Okay. Alright, so we're in business again. And we're going to bring the camera here. Yep, that's a specific sequence. And then we're going to add another one. Not sure why. There we go. Alright, we're going to move it up. Come over here. Okay, and then we'll add camera 4. Looks like we can't do anything until this window disappears. Looks like a bug in. No, it does work. Okay. Like that. Okay. Let's see here. Alright. I think this is good enough, and now we're going to go back to camera 1, as you can see now. Now we have that beautiful sequence looking at the going through the camera views that we created. So if I remove this, okay, here we go. So that's another sequence now. So when you create a sequence, it will give you a couple. You can do the, I think it deleted some of our, yeah, that's fine. Okay, well, I'm going to disable X camera now. All right. And what we're going to do is we're going to get the aircraft up in the air. And let's see here. Yeah, so actually, before we do that, let us create a, you can create an orbit around the aircraft, and we'll say create. Alright. And now we have an orbit as well. Again, we will edit everything later on in the video editing software. So we're not going to take all these sequences, and we're going to pick the parts that we want. All right, that's good enough. And what we're going to do is now we're going to position the aircraft on the runway, and we're perhaps going to do a chase view while the aircraft is departing, okay? All right, let's go ahead and change the location. Customize and runway 01, confirm, start new flight.
Park brake off.
Okay, let me disable X camera. All right, so we are now ready for departure. Let me go ahead and do a hot start. And by the way, guys, what you're seeing is exactly what I go through when I create these videos. So I'm really not editing anything, just really showing you exactly what happens. So we're just going to wait now for the engines to become available, and we will then put the aircraft to maximum thrust to depart. And we want to really capture just a few seconds of the departure. That's all we need for the sequence. All right, let me go ahead and set
Flaps 1.
And looks like the engines are still not available. Let's see, quick look here. Oh, the engines aren't available yet. Alright, so we'll go ahead and, I'm not sure why it hasn't started. So, okay. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try something else here. Maybe that
Flaps
works.
0.
Yep, that works. And flaps 1 for departure. Alright, so now we can...
Spoilers arm.
Now we can depart. This is what the aircraft looks like from the outside. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to zoom in. And we're going to release the parking brake.
on.
We're just going to add a little bit of power.
Park brake off. Park brake on.
wait for the aircraft. Okay, so let's go maximum power now.
Power set.
And hopefully we can depart on time. Alright. Reaching rotation speed. So let's go ahead and rotate. And now we'll hit shift and F2.
Positive climb. Speed.
Okay. So we captured, I think, the part that we want.
20, 30, 20, 10, 5.
Okay, so all right, so yeah, so we went into a needed dive here and crashed the aircraft, but we captured the part that we want. All right, guys, this brings us to the conclusion of episode 2. I hope that this was a fun and informative episode. If you do have any questions, please do post them in the comments section below. I did receive a question regarding my Movie Vegas Studio settings, the template settings for recording, that we will cover in episode number 3. Hopefully it won't be too long before I post episode 3, in which we will use Movie Vegas Studio to edit all the cinematic sequences we created in this video. Until next time, please take care of yourselves and each other. I will see you all very soon. Bye-bye for now.